So we are living in very transformational times, and one of the most worrying transformations happening right now is the usurping and elimination of our sovereignty and freedom right in front of our eyes, as some people are literally cheering for it and celebrating it, as others, like whistleblower Edward Snowden, are warning that this is the architecture of our oppression. So yeah, we're going to get into that in great detail in this video, plus a lot more, but before we do, one of the reasons I'm able to do a video for you every single day for free is because of the businesses that we partner with, and one of them is cleanhealthyhappy.com, which my friend John Bush runs, and also where you could get your hands on some important products that you can't get in many other places now, some supplements and other stuff. And if you're looking for a trusted business where you could buy those things and not have to wait a very long time, check out the link down below. Now, what's happening right now is absolutely mind-boggling, as of course we have a national shutdown of almost every aspect of our normal lives that were before, and it definitely seems like our lives won't go back to normal anytime soon. All of this as, of course, lower and middle class Americans are just being utterly eviscerated and told to go to places like Walmart for their necessities, the same globalist multinational corporation that is now investing $425 million in the city of Wuhan. This is not a joke. This is not The Onion. This is a real article just came out moments ago detailing how Walmart is going to be investing $425 million into this Chinese city of Wuhan. Yeah, that's not a joke here. And while the basic American gets chicken scraps of a UBI that's being rolled out extremely slow, with some people getting the check allegedly in September, Wall Street and hedge funds are being bailed out to the tunes of trillions of dollars behind our back with secret Federal Reserve bailouts that we don't even get to know about. And as the pain and suffering continues, which could have been all avoided if, proper, individual, legitimate, educated, smart responses would have taken place, and it hasn't. Quite the contrary has happened. This is one of the reasons I've been telling people to be smart, prepared, and ready all the way back in January to take this entire situation seriously, which a lot of people, including the media and the government, didn't. We're now in this mess. We're now in this crisis that was made worse by their actions, which now they're grossly overreacting to and benefiting off of it by just usurping any rights that we had, or even the idea of what we had, as we just continue to see backwards actions taken by big government bureaucrats and absolutely make no sense at all. And again, this is important context here because this is coming from a person, me here, that's been taking this entire situation seriously and has been telling other people to take it seriously to my detriment. And still, what's happening right now is atrocious, over the line, and extremely dangerous, since, of course, the powers that the government is gaining over you right now, those powers will not be relinquished. As the famous saying by our founding father, Benjamin Franklin, goes, those who give up liberty for security deserve neither. And those are very similar epithets and reasoning recently explained by NSA CIA whistleblower Edward Snowden, who right now is still living in exile in Russia. And Edward Snowden brings up a very important point, something that we've been talking about also from the very beginning, with him specifically saying, quote, every academic, every researcher who looked at this knew this was coming. Yet, when we needed it, the system has now failed us, and it has failed us comprehensively. And he's absolutely right. Either by just total incompetency or just criminal mischievous activity, everything that could have prevented this thing from getting worse, especially in the early onset of it, was done by government. And we also are getting the data and information that U.S. intelligence agencies even gave a warning to Donald Trump about an outbreak coming from China that could affect the entire world all the way back in November. In late January, all the signs were there, and I was even telling everyone, hey, prepare for the worst. Now, because the problem is as bad as it is, we of course have the reaction and solution that, again, is very important to look at, that I believe Edward Snowden really quantifies well in this quote, saying, As emergency laws proliferate, as we sacrifice our rights, we also sacrifice our capability to arrest the slide into a less liberal and less free world. Do you truly believe that when the first wave, the second wave, the 16th wave of this sickness is a long forgotten memory, that these capabilities will not be kept, that these data sets will not be kept? No matter how it is being used, what is being built is the architecture of oppression. And yeah, I would absolutely agree with him, especially seeing what is happening all around the entire world. In supposed free countries, Western liberal countries, where police officers are trying to ticket you or arrest you for being in your own garden, officers of the state are literally going around supermarkets looking inside of people's shopping carts to see if they're buying non-essential items, while drones follow individuals who are in nature alone by themselves in a public shaming attempt to try to attack them. Again, the closure of state parks and just the attack of people being alone in nature is extremely worrying, since of course it's completely backwards and doesn't really help the fight of this supposed sickness, does it? But what does it do? It allows just backwards, asinine, bureaucratic, power-hungry actions to be allowed. That's the dangerous precedent made here. As 2 + 2 = 5, logic is outside the door, and what is right and what actually matters doesn't to them. And again, the UK is just the biggest violators during this specific time, especially since, they also just limited the number of tube subway stations available to them, making, of course, people packed and stacked on top of each other. And these measures by government officials make this entire situation worse, especially with, quote, law enforcement officers that are told to enforce these stupid laws, and they are, without question. Luckily, we still have the ability to film some of their ridiculous actions. But if we're going by the official story, there's super spreaders. There's a large number of individuals that have this sickness and don't even know it, according to some of the studies and data that I looked at. Even according to some specific studies in some cities, they found out that 80% of the spread of this was done by individuals who had this supposed sickness and didn't even know it. So if that's happening, why would you have law enforcement officers in places like Rhode Island going door to door, making contact with as many outside individuals, especially with individuals who have a high probability of being affected? This is why, and in hotspots like New York City, nearly 20% of all the police officers there are out sick, many of them super spreaders, and in other places like California, literally going up to individuals by themselves in nature, grabbing them up, not having the proper PPE, not having any proper protective gear, taking individuals that are in nature by themselves, grabbing them very close next to each other after handcuffing them, standing together in a car, and then putting them in a little box filled with a lot of other people. And if we're in a supposed pandemic, if there's a big virus spreading, those are stupid, idiotic moves that are spreading this sickness and not helping anyone. Now, a bigger aspect of this kind of tyrannical oppression is not just being done by police officers and people with guns. A large portion of the bigger tyrannical implications are, of course, being done digitally online. And, of course, countries like China are leading the way with their technocratic oppressive measures, as right now, if you want to travel in China, especially from Wuhan, you have to obtain and gain a special health code certificate from your friendly government application that you have to put on your phone. Yes, in China, they are already doing digital health certificates that monitor everything about you, have a very sophisticated artificial intelligence algorithm planning database that not only tracks, traces every little step and move you make or search or purchase, maybe even predictive programming. We don't know that for sure, but now this is the new passport in China that gives you a green code, a yellow code, or a red code and tells you when you may or may not travel and where to travel to. And when we look at apps in China, specifically apps like Alipay and WeChat, we have to understand that these are government-controlled and regulated apps. And when you download the app, you have to self-report on yourself and fill out a little, quote, survey. Then the government will pull up their database on you, look up your medical records, your travel history, and if you have been in contact with someone who was allegedly diagnosed with this big sickness. And after gathering that information and most likely a lot of other information behind the scenes that we don't even know about, then you're giving a code. Green, yes. Yellow, limited. Red, no. Yellow, you have to stay in home isolation. Green, you could go and travel to places if you get the proper permissions with the allocated time. And then the app will, of course, follow you. If you violate any of this or any of the app's recommendations, police officers will be called, your location will be found, and, you know, in China, you might just be barricaded in your own home until you pass away, which happened with this latest sickness in cities like Wuhan, where extremely creepy video came out of people being found dead in their own homes after the government literally locked them in. And what China's doing and what the United Kingdom's doing, this is the blueprint. This is the new testing grounds. This is way beyond 1984, way beyond Brave New World, enacting very dangerous powers in very few hands that, of course, will be abused, just like eventually all power is abused by governments. And again, if you don't understand the true potential of danger here, especially what's happening now, your history teacher has failed you. If you look at what's happening right now, obviously, a lot of people are scared. A lot of people don't want to get sick, and they're being programmed and conditioned to accept this, and also at the same time to report their fellow neighbor for simply going on drives, which again has absolutely no effect on the spread of this sickness. And with these actions, plus many more, and many people turning a blind eye to the oppression right in front of us, the situation will surely only get worse from here, as of course the mainstream media will only try to lull you into this fear emotional state where you are not rationally thinking, as the organizations that you believe are actually out there to help you during this situation, well, they're the ones making it worse. There's even talks right now of a vaccine certificate, which is promoted by, of course, individuals like Bill Gates, who are also pushing the idea of ID 2020 to individually database and track and have the information on as many people as possible, since, of course, tech and data are the new landscape when it comes to the bigger war for rights and power over you. And even though we're getting some pushback by people like Attorney General Barr, who are opposing the idea of a vaccine certificate, and politicians like New York Governor Cuomo promising that they will not impose martial law in New York, we should understand that these words should always be met with skepticism. And particularly also in this instance, when we look at the Attorney General Barr going against Bill Gates, we also have to understand these two individuals are also connected with someone that they both closely know, and that, of course, is an individual like Jeffrey Epstein. And until we get the truth and answers about Jeffrey Epstein, which, by the way, Bill Gates lied about to the general public about his relationship with, until we find out why local police officers, prosecutors, judges, celebrities, technocrats, and very big politicians were working, cooperating, and helping this convicted child abuser, unless we get answers about the very government-connected Jeffrey Epstein and what was really happening there, I'm sorry, but it's best to be skeptical of government. Since, of course, you know, thousands of children were abused right underneath the nose of the government for you know, almost a decade with this particular case, and there still has been no justice, no truth. And until that happens, it's best to be skeptical of government. And again, I say all of this with still a reminder to everyone to take the current situation that we're in seriously and to be courteous to your family, to your community, to your neighborhood, and to take steps that are responsible for you and your family. This situation is still unknown. We are finding new information about it every single day. It's better to be cautious now than reckless. Simple actions like wearing a face mask, growing your own garden, being respectful of people around you and their space is something that we could all do to make this problem a lot less problematic for everyone. It doesn't hurt you doing that, and there's no reason why you shouldn't. So yes, you could also make sure you take this sickness seriously while being concerned about the upcoming larger economic ramifications, while as well also being worried about the expanding authoritarian tyrannical police state. So yes, all three of these things could be true at the same time. This is my official position. It might not fit with the way you see things, but this is how I see things after closely looking at all the data and all the information in front of us. It's better to be safer than sorry and respectful of others rather than getting totally screwed later down the line. That's my official position. You don't like it? That's your problem. If you see it any other way and you want to engage in conversation, let me know in the comment section below. What do you think I'm missing here? We can only learn by having a dialogue together, which I'm here for. And the reason I'm doing that is because that's the proper way to move forward. Anyway, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. This is why. Love you guys. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.